Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's Tuesday, the 19th of May, 2026. Well, it was the last time I looked anyway. Two very esteemed guests this evening. We have the one and only Richard Inman, who I'm getting a bit of feedback
from. No, it's not from me. It's not from me.
Howard? Is it Howard?
Yeah.
And the one and only Howard Cox. How you doing, Howard? How you doing, Richard?
Good, man. Very, very good.
Howard, good evening.
Very well indeed.
Lovely to see you both, gentlemen. We've got a great show tonight, loads to get through. The big discussion really, obviously, is, what's going on up there in Makerfield. We're going to get straight into that tonight. Going to let Richard get himself settled. He's still busy from the weekend, look.
I am. I actually am. I ain't stopped. I haven't had a holiday yet. There we go.
Well, I reckon you should come to Benidorm, Richard. That's what I think.
Yeah, probably. I might actually come and live there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure it'll be up your street, Howard, but you never know.
I mean, I used to have a place in La Manga down the road.
Yeah, all right.
So I love Spain. I always have done. I just I'm not quite happy about some of their politics, but I love Spain.
Yeah, I'll try and stay out of that one, mate.
I ain't happy about our politics either.
I've got enough on me. I've got enough on my plate with what's going on back at home. Right, guys, let's get into it straight away because we've got a good crowd already in the room, so we might as well get straight into it. Look, 18th of June is the proposed date for the by-election up there in Makerfield. There's an electorate. I think these figures are from the 2024 election, so they, give or take a family, that it's going to be pretty accurate. 76,641 people eligible to vote. At the last election, 52.5% turnout. Labour have currently got a majority with the seat that was held by Josh Simmons of 5,399. Now, obviously, what has been going on this week with the emergence of Restore's candidate, which the one and only Ben Habib has got behind, a man that we're all supporters of on this panel tonight, that Ben himself has backed. Richard, what's your initial reaction to it? We'll go with you first, Rich.
Well, I know nothing about it. I mean, I'm completely ignorant of all of it, to be honest with you. I've been still looking at what happened at the weekend and analysing all that, because I think that needs a lot of scrutiny, because I think, well, not scrutiny, but the way the authorities are dealing with what happened at the weekend needs a lot of scrutiny. So if we talk about that maybe a bit later. But the Ashton thing, I know nothing more than we spoke about yesterday. Now, I didn't know that Ben had backed the Restore candidate, so that's very interesting.
Yeah, he has indeed.
Great and magnanimous. Great idea.
Yeah. Howard, I take it you spoke to Ben on Saturday?
Yes, I've spoken to him, even since then, yeah. And we talked about a lot of the things, because going back to the Dalton and Denton election, I was one of the people that advised that we shouldn't stand a candidate up there, and and unfortunately I was overruled in our group, and like this one here, I'm glad we're not standing in Makerfield, and there are two good candidates in Reform and Restore. We got the Restore one is the lady who's I think she's a self-employed businesswoman, sorry, and the other one is a self-employed plumber, and and they're all local. They're actually born there and everything like it. So it's a head-to-head there, and I'm just pissed off with the fact is that the whole issue is Andy Burnham is using this as a stepping stone for his own personal greed, and I get that's what really upsets me.
Well, he seems to think that he is the king of the north and he can just step in there and take this seat. I think it's going to be, very hard for him. Let's have a look at this is the graph from the last election, or the last by-election, from the general election. You can see that Reform, a good chunk of the vote, Labour obviously with the majority there.
It's one of the 98 seats that Reform came second in. They did very well right across. I mean, where I stood, I came second, for Reform. And so I think, personally, I still think Restore's not ready for this.
I agree.
And I think, Conservatives should stand down and just let Reform take on Labour. I'm not a fan of reform, as you know, but the simple fact is, I think that's what we need to do. Good.
How would I agree?
Now.
So you guys,
I totally agree.
You're sort of laying your cards down very early. You're both saying that you would like to see everyone step aside and let reform have a free
not necessarily. Well, you know my opinion, Paul. Not necessarily reform. What we need is a right wing unity candidate where Conservative, Reform, Restore, Advance, all the smaller parties get together and say, right, this is the candidate we all agree on. We're all going to tell all our supporters to get behind it, and you have one right wing candidate. That's the only way we're going to win, because otherwise, what's going to happen? That nice little pie chart you just showed. Well, the little bit that has reform, it's going to be cut in half, and that's going to be an Andy Burnham wins.
Yeah, well, you can probably, looking at that chart, you can probably count most of that darker blue chart there will probably switch over to one of the two parties.
It's still going to be split in half, Paul.
Yeah, but then you can also say that the green part of that chart may well slip over to Labour. I run a couple of polls, right? And these are interesting. Look at these. Who will win the Makerfield by-election? 60% say Reform, 5% say Labour, 35% say Restore. This one's probably more interesting, actually. Let me get this other one up. Hold on a second. That's the same bloody one. Hold on. I've got another one here that I did from earlier on, which is also very interesting. Let me just get that up. Yeah, if anyone should stand down, or should they just fight it out and make the best man win? 15% saying Reform should stand down, 30% saying Restore should stand down, and 55% saying let them fight it out and let the best man win. I don't know.
Well, look, Paul, let me tell you something, right? Sorry, go on, Howard.
No, I was just only going to say, what is it? What does this mean? The direction of what happens in this by-election will dictate what prime minister we're going to have, and that's the important thing, the most thing. And I just don't like the fact that the people of Makerfield are actually being used as this thing. It's unbelievable how opportunistic political parties are. Now Labour, we can go on about Starmer, and we can go along about Streeting and Miliband, and we can about Rayner and all these people. At the end of the day, these people are actually being used as pawns to dictate the future of our country, and I don't like that.
I'm going to play devil's advocate, guys. So I'm not necessarily disagreeing with either what you say. I'm going to play devil's advocate. I mean, I suppose another side would say, well, everyone's got a right to stand. This is democracy.
Paul, I think that's, well, I agree with Howard on this 100%. I agree 100% with Howard on this. I think Ben's right to come in behind Restore and say we're not standing, but I don't think Restore's right to stand either. I think there needs to be a discussion between the Conservative Party, Restore, Reform, Advance, and there needs to be a unity candidate, right? Because in a way, if it goes badly wrong for the right wing of politics in Makerfield, well, then maybe it's a hard lesson that we're going to have to learn early, right? And maybe we're better learning it now. But I think Howard's absolutely got it right. My local MP, friend of mine, he won because he was a unionist unity candidate. When he stood on a party political ticket, he lost every election because the unionist vote was split and we ended up with a progressive politician. That will happen if we don't sort this out, Paul, with your plan. So if you believe in your plan, you should be agreeing with me and Howard on this, right? Because if this is repeated up and down the country and Restore, Advance, all the other parties, Reform, the Conservative Party are fighting like cats in the bag for the right-wing vote, we will lose the next general election. That's how serious this is, Paul, right? This is not a game. And no disrespect, polls on all of our channels mean absolutely nothing. We're not polling the whole population. Exactly. We're polling a little echo chamber of our people, right? We've got to get really serious about this and really scientific, and we've got to get all of these party leaders, including Ben and Rupert and Nigel. We've got to shake them by the throat and say, you guys need to come together to save this country, because it's my kids' future at stake. It's your kids' future at stake. I'm getting really wound up by the fighting and the infighting on the right of politics. It's got to stop, and we've got to have unity. We've got to find a way to do it.
Howard, do you see any way that can happen? I mean, you know, look, you know more of these guys than me and Richard put together. You know Howard. Rupert. You know Ben. You know Nigel. Right? You know them all personally.
Yes, I do.
So there's nobody better place.
Yeah, and they know.
Howard, you're not leaving my hope of unity. You're not leaving me with a lot of confidence the way you said.
Just that, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
I've got nothing but admiration for what you're trying to do, Paul, and I'm 100% your honestly laudable objective. But the simple thing is, there is no chance in hell that Nigel and Rupert will get together. Those two hate each other. I mean, Nigel, and his party, accuse him of having dementia. They accuse him of abuse. They have all sorts of things that are going on, but they threw him out of the party. I do have hope for Advance and Restore coming together. I really, really do. And I think deep down, Ben will be one of the ones that's going to make that happen. This thing about supporting the Restore candidate, publicly in Twitter, and you probably saw Rupert's response. Thank you. That's really decent of you, Ben. This is the first stage, or maybe the third stage of about a 10-stage process of us coming together over the next couple of years. Yeah. The thing that is very worrying, as I keep saying, is what happens in this by-election dictates the future of our country. And that's why with Richard, I'm with him totally. We have got to bang heads together. People like Nick Tanconi, he's been saying good things, I think, really coming together. Really good. The problem we have is Nigel Farage. I'm sick to death that this is a guy that I believed in. He was a friend 15 years ago. I first met him. And then, about 10 years ago, I worked closely on European elections, and I wrote some of the transport policy for when he was in the European elections. We got to know each other. I've been pissed with him. I've had meals with him, and it was only just 2 years ago. We met up again. We had a nice lunch together. We talked about his son's boat, his bass fishing, and all that sort of thing. But you know what happened? I supported a certain Tommy Robinson. And suddenly I've become the pariah, and I just don't understand that illogicality in what I thought was an intelligent person. But the more I see reform, I think they're moving more and more to the left. Some of their policies and all the things I'm seeing now. The important thing is, I think UKIP, Restore, Advance, and all those ones, they're the ones who should get in the room now, because they would challenge reform big time.
You're right. That's right. That's absolutely right. I agree with that. That needs to happen now, Howard. Things are too desperate for that not to happen. But I think it needs to be collegiate. I think that's where the college and a lot of the stuff that Advance have done. The way I see it, Advance has amazing policies, an amazing party structure. Restore has the sort of rock star, great social media thing. You put those two things together in a collaborative way, and you've got a winning ticket, I think, or certainly a very strong ticket.
You don't. So, again, playing devil's advocate, so I've got to ask questions from both sides of the camps here. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to keep my powder keg dry until closer to the election. I want to see how Rupert's campaign goes for this, because I think anyone that underestimates him and his team up there might be in for a little bit of a surprise. Now, I just don't know. I don't know the area. I don't know the people of the area. I don't know what they're likely to do. I mean, a lot of them have gone from Labour over to Reform. Would they perhaps prefer Restore? Can Restore bring those people that aren't usually voting out this time? Look, the bookies, they've slashed the odds. I mean, at the moment, Labour are 4-7 favourites. Reform are 15-8. Restore down to 4-1. The Greens are 150 and the Tories are at 250 alongside the Lib Dems. So, the bookies, they don't never give much away, do they? But at 4-1, what do they know that we don't? Look, Robert Kenyon is the Reform candidate, a very good candidate by all accounts. Let's just have a quick look at both the candidates and what some of the people up there have to say about the situation. This is the Reform candidate. That's the Reform candidate, a nice slick little video. I have to say, by comparison to what I'm going to play now is frankly in a different league. To be honest with you, let's play Restores.
I would say a common sense party with a trustworthy leader who cares about his people, his constituents, doesn't try and lie about anything, and just really wants the best for the people. And that's it, isn't it? That's all we want. We just want to be recognised. We want us as British people to be put first.
100%. Vote Restore Britain.
Restore Britain.
Well done.
So that's Rebecca Shepherd. Obviously, she's not a politician. I believe she owned a riding school. So a woman after my own heart, into her horses. Two very different kind of first looks at the two candidates there, gents.
Yeah, I mean the reform, promo was a lot more professional for sure. There's no doubt about that. It was a lot slicker, and he seemed like the reform guy seemed like a genuinely nice local lad. Whereas obviously you've got Montgomery Tom's chat to this lady. Nobody knows anything about her, who she is, what her background is. She just seemed very nervous, edgy. So just first impressions, I would say the reform promo is a lot more powerful than the Restore one. That's just me giving my opinion.
Howard, what do you think?
Well, you can see, as you quite rightly say, the video, so that the money that's been thrown behind that is very slick, and and that's how reform was shown. I wish I had that when I was standing for them for London Mayor. Those sorts of things, I had about threepence and a bag of chips, those sorts of things. And with the lady herself, I think let's give it time. It wasn't, Monty didn't really do her any justice either. He said, shaking the hand, that sort of thing. I know Monty well. We all know Monty well. He's all right. But the lady itself, the clue, isn't it? She's female. Will she attract the female vote? They might come out more because there's a woman MP. Who knows? I don't know. The thing that we decided is didn't they vote big time for Brexit in that area? Yeah. And then we know that, and that's why Andy Burnham has suddenly U-turned, because he's always been a person who wants to go back into the EU. Yeah, and today he's come out, or yesterday he came out today, says that we shouldn't be talking about that. We should be talking about local issues. And Wes Streeting has admitted he wants to go back into the EU. Yeah, so that's the issue.
Andy Burnham won't admit to wanting to go back in the EU until he's in number 10. Now, I'll tell you what we will do, though. To be fair to Restore, we'll have a look at this, because I thought this was a lot better.
We've got to win, Dylan, or we're all finished, mate. If we don't win this, the country is going to destroy itself.
I know, and Rupert, I know, mate. As soon as you said you can put money towards us, we can be a member, I wish I could give more. I've got 2 kids. I live in a 2-bed flat. I'm trying my hardest to make this myself in this country, and I just don't. Without yourself.
I think the key is get people just to join up. It's the numbers that matter. The more people we have who joined, the more power that gives us with the media and everybody else. They don't believe our numbers at the moment, but our numbers are actually completely verifiable.
Yeah, no, I fully believe in you. Well, the only thing is, I never even put a penny towards reform, and then when I seen what they did to yourself, and I must say I am deeply hurt with what they did to you. It really did affect me, because there's nothing except in this country but a man's honour and his loyalty, and you showed nothing but loyalty and honour towards Nigel, and he turned his back on you and sent our men through your door. And I just want to say that no man should ever have to accept that, and no man should have to put up with something like that happening to him, especially when they've been nothing but good to men like him. Honestly, I'm a massive fan, and thank you so much for taking his call. I'm sweating over here. I couldn't believe that you're on the phone and I'm talking to you. I really am sweating over here. Thank you so much.
Keep fighting and spread the word. That's all we can do.
I try to on site, mate. Don't worry. I always talk about you, and I'll always continue to talk about you. I do believe in you. I do.
I think we lost Howard. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm back again. Can you hear me?
No, yeah, we just lost your camera. That's all right. I can still hear you. We've just lost your camera. That's all. I mean, look, that sort of approach could well attract the average everyday working man on the street. I don't know. I mean, I've called this video "The Winner Takes It All," and if Restore was to somehow be able to take this, and I don't think they can, if I'm honest, but if they did, all bets are off with reform, Richard, no?
I think the only way that a right-wing candidate is going to win is if there's a unity candidate. Anything else is pie in the sky. Simple as that. Because Restore will pick up several thousand votes without a shadow of a doubt. Restore advance together up there, superb. But what we really need, and it has to happen, and somebody has to be able to do it, there needs to be someone with a strong enough will and personality to bring everybody together and give Nigel a big slap round the back of the head. Because we know Nigel's the problem. There wouldn't be, if reform was what it should be, there would never have been advance, there would never have been Restore.
Absolutely.
We would have had a really, and look at Howard. Howard is a man that I absolutely have the maximum respect for, right? I mean that, brother. Ben Habib, maximum respect for Ben Habib. All the people that left reform. Rupert Lowe, maximum respect for the man. You know, despite me spitting my dummies out and saying all sorts of nasty things before, but you know, we can get it wrong and admit when we get it wrong, right? So the reality is, Nigel is responsible for this mess that we're in, and if the right loses the next general election because of Nigel's intransigence, whatever's going on with it, is he bought and paid for? Who knows? Doesn't matter. Whatever reason he's behaving like he is, you know, whether he's got this uncoronated king syndrome, whatever it is, we need to find a way of having unity on the right. That's why what you're doing, Paul, is so vitally important.
Well, I appreciate that, boys. But I mean, let me tell you. Here's one of the things. Like David says, she's going on the Dan Morton show. Paul, can you not pull some strings and get out onto your channel? I contacted Restore immediately yesterday, or the people that I know at Restore, and put that forward. And the reception that I got was very lukewarm. I've got to say, you know, it wasn't.
Well, Paul, there lies another problem, because you told me it's not the first time you've told me that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think. From an advanced point of view, advanced have got to be very, very careful not to just throw a lot in with Restore unless there is some reciprocation. So if there's a complete disrespect and dismissiveness, then that is also a problem.
Well,
you know, so.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, look, Richard, if they don't like me or my channel personally, that's absolutely fine. I've got no problem with that, you know, because, you know, we didn't get off on the best of foots, right? So I would get that, no problem, okay? But they need to be going on to the other channels, you know, yours, you know, go up, get Howard up there and speak to all different people, and, you know, Jeff Taylor, Maya Tuzi. You know, this girl is going to need a lot of publicity, because they're not going to get any mainstream media publicity, are they? Now, I think they're going to rely on knocking on doorsteps. But as I was saying to John yesterday, the ordinary guy, John, it's a lot of doorsteps to knock on. You know, where are we? 76,000.
Yeah, but one of the things that we got to understand is that I noticed that GB News and Talk TV have both mentioned Reform's candidate, and they've not mentioned Restore's candidate. And you know, that is what we're up against. It's what Advance is up against. And they are mainstream now, Talk TV, but Talk TV and GB News are Reform propaganda channels. And I'm up against it. I mean, you know, what's it got to do with politics? You know, me running a campaign to reduce fuel duty, and yet, you know, I have a struggle to get onto these things. You know, and it's the same. Last week, actually, there was a column. The feature editor of The Sun, a guy called Colin Robertson, who is a friend, and you know, I was paid to write articles for years with them, op-ed. But as soon as I declared for Nigel and then declared for Tommy, you know, I've been cancelled. And there was an article he wrote last week about the fact that you know, Tommy's, you know, moaning about the fact that they're not getting this, that, and the other, and it's an attack on Tommy in the article. It wasn't about the fact that millions are going to come together to actually highlight the fact that Starmer is such a wanker, yes, and that he's so divisive, and all the other things that he's done. And you saw Lammy and Starmer coming out with the comments about, you know, they don't come out with those comments, do they, for the Palestine thing? They didn't meet up with the police at Lambeth Police Station, all the senior, including Starmer, to talk about what was happening. They didn't do that for the Palestinian things, but they came out with that, and the implication was there was going to be hostility and violence at Tommy's rally. And there wasn't. It was lovely. It was a wonderful day. The only person that pissed me off is a certain Richard Inman, you know.
I'm just ignorant. You know me, Howard. You know,
I'm pulling your plug. I mean, I saw what you were doing. Though that at point, you had your megaphone there. You were holding the crowd there, and you were talking to that policeman. And some big 6'4" arsehole comes up to you and says, "Hello, mate. How are you?" So last thing you want.
I think we didn't have a hug. I think we had a bear hug, didn't we? And then I ran away. You know?
I'll tell you what, Howard, think yourself lucky because you never even bothered to answer my text. Jack,
mate,
thank you
you got
very much.
got to be in it to win it, Paul. You weren't there, mate.
I know. Who do you think is going to be in number 10 if Reform win? Well, that would obviously be Barrows, wouldn't it? Hartford, thank you, Linford. Good work at the weekend, mate. Evening, all regards, Linford.
Yeah,
Cheers,
good to
mate.
see you, Linford. You played a blinder, mate.
Howard, let me ask you a question, right? Where does Advance go from here?
It's a very, very good question. I mean, since what's happened, the fact that Great Yarmouth did well with Restore and the fact that Reform did an incredible job in the local elections, virtually immediately I asked Ben, the college needs to get together and talk about the way forward and what we're doing. That's not giving in. Far from it. It's actually, hey, how can we actually build for the future? So the good news is that Advance next week is the college is getting together. We're going to, basically say what is our direction, and our direction still is to continue to build policies. And I don't care what anyone says. If you've got a tranche of policies that the majority like, that will go down well long term. And I don't care if Reform nick 'em or Restore nick 'em. It makes no difference to me. Quite rightly, what Richard just said, the right's got to come together. And I think we will be the glue that brings these parties together. And Ben, as we all know, is probably the most honest politician on this planet. He just simply is. And, he's the most amazing character. And that's one reason I'm not going anywhere else. I'm staying with Advance UK, despite several parties trying to get me. The Tories and Restore are trying to get me on board. And, I'm doing this thing on Thursday, which we will come and talk about later, a petition I'm handing in. I've got 12 MPs coming from the Tory party to stand next to me outside the Treasury. So they wouldn't do that if they hated me. And last week, Robert Jenrick asked me to join him on their big bus in Whitehall. And I said, provided it's a bit apolitical, because that's what Fair Fuel UK is.
Yeah.
Everyone drives a car, even the Greens, etc. So please, can we make sure? Unfortunately, it wasn't. It became very Reform, took it over, and I decided to walk away from it. Robert Jenrick sort of apologised to me privately, but at the end of the day, I'm not in that league of that sort of thing, and maybe I haven't got thick enough skin, but I'm in it for the motorist and also Advance UK, because Advance UK are honest and principled.
Yeah, I want to get onto that.
Can I comment on that, Paul, as well? Because I think, from my point of view, and again, I'm not on the college. I'm just a member of Advance, and I'm quite happy with that. But obviously, I can talk to Howard, I can talk to Ben, I can talk to David Rhodes whenever I want and express my opinion, which is a great place to be. But I think, from my point of view, Advance, like Howard says, not only is Ben the most honest leader, but Advance is the most honest party. I think we stand absolutely in the sweet spot in terms of policy, in terms of party structure. Where we fall down, and I'm going to say this, look, I'm not going to pull any punches anymore. I'm not going to tickle people's ears anymore. We're absolutely SH1T at social media. We're nowhere. We're nowhere. If we had the social media presence and strategy, and fair play to Restore, they've got it. I think our policy, our party structure, the stability of the party, the fact that we haven't got any of the, I'm not going to go into, I don't want to, scratch old wounds, but we don't have any of the unfortunate baggage that came with Restore when Restore launched. To me, Advance is in the sweet spot, and it's a shame that Advance, for whatever reason, couldn't get it together when it came to the social media side of things. And they still haven't, they still haven't. But I am 100% committed to Advance, and I don't want Advance to disappear. I think there's certainly a very good there's very good reasons to have some sort of link with Restore in terms of political pacts. You had the Liberal Lab Pact years ago. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but some sort of pact with Restore would be a great idea. But my personal feeling is Advance as a standalone party is still needed. So I would hate to see Advance swallowed up by Restore. I would love to see them work together in a collegiate way where there can be a pact of some sort and some sort of coming together. And I'd like to see UKIP included in that, like Howard was saying, Nick Tenconi. I think Nick has matured massively as a politician over the last year.
Absolutely right.
You know?
I agree totally with that.
And I'm very straight. You know, if I think someone's not doing things properly, I'll just say it. But I think Nick is. I think Nick is playing. Yeah, that's a difficult one to work out. But I think Nick's doing really well. I think Ben's great, and I do like Rupert, but I'm very worried about Advance just folding and saying, "Okay, we'll just join."
No, here's the bottom line. Here's the big question, right? This is probably the question that everyone's going to have on their mind. Can both Restore and Reform stand at this forthcoming by-election and still win? One of them still win. Can those two parties beat Labour in the third place? Well, they wouldn't necessarily have to beat him in the third place, would they? But can they both stand and still win? One of them still win?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. No. I think that, you see, the interesting thing for me is just going back to the Advance UK thing you were mentioning about them. It's sort of just they've swapped positions. We were the political party, Advance UK, and Restore was this movement. Now Restore has become this big political party, and people are talking about them, and they have an MP, and they have, you know, dominate Great Yarmouth, and they're getting all the talk. Advance UK is, in my opinion, is becoming a think tank, and I don't mind that for a period of time, provided the policies, and that's where I don't think we'll disappear. I mean, Ben's assured me totally he's not going anywhere. Good. You know, he's put a lot of money into this and his personal, you know, efforts into this. And going back to your question, Paul, regarding, you know, whether I really don't know how this is going to go, but I don't think Labour's going to be smashed into smithereens. I think they may come second and to Reform, in my opinion, and I think Restore will be third. That's my prediction, and the Greens won't be far off. And that's the way it's going to go. And the worry about it is, you know, it's good for Reform in the sense that, yeah, keeps them going, keeps their momentum going in the polls and everything. Oh, that's good for them. But imagine if Reform lose to Andy Burnham. That's the issue for me. I honestly think, you know, it'll be a very close run thing. And if Andy Burnham, because he will be our Prime Minister, of course, then, because 60% of the Parliamentary Labour Party and the NEC want him. Even the NEC, which turned him down recently, they want him now to be their leader. West Streeting doesn't get close. Yep.
So is the question,
and the reason that's a worry, the reason that Howard is, if I'm not speaking on your behalf, Howard, but if I'm getting inside your head and thinking like you're thinking, Andy Burnham is a politician that could win the next general election. Yes. Because he's charismatic. I don't believe he's a man of the people. I think he's a wrong one, like all the Labour Party. I despise the Labour Party and the left with such venom, and I think Burnham's he's just another one of them. He's just one of them, but he's just better at it. He's better at it. He's got better PR. He's got better branding, and better street credibility. Yeah. But he's a wrong one, right? So that's why I'm worried about Burnham, because if Burnham becomes Prime Minister, we could be looking at another. Can you imagine it? Another 7 years of Labour running this country. Can you imagine that?
They call it a decade of renewal, and he's going to continue it, isn't he?
It's a decade of destruction.
So the gamble for Rupert then. So, I mean, you know, we can look at it from both sides. You know, I've already said that if Rupert was to somehow come in here and manage to win this by-election, it would send shockwaves throughout the entire politics. Okay, so let's look at it another way. What will that then do to Restore, Howard? Because it's a bold move. Either way, whichever way you look at it, it's a very brave move, because if they lose here, doesn't that kind of prove Farage's point that they're just not going to be able to go on the support they're going to need and split the vote?
It depends on the size of that loss, Paul. I mean, if they, you know, Richard said earlier, they're going to get 2,000 or 3,000 votes. I mean, you know, I don't know what the turnout's going to be. It was 53% at the general election, as you said.
I think it's going to be higher than that now. I reckon you could be looking at 60+% for this one.
Well, then you're going to get those ones who haven't got a political home voting, which is an interesting thought. And those people could be Restore people. but I think they're more likely to be Reform. I think, this is my prediction. Reform will win, Labour will be close, and Restore will be a good third. And the rest probably might lose their deposits. That's just the way it will probably end up being. I don't think it would damage Restore too much because he's an MP. Don't forget, he's still got his seat in there, and he's still got the older Great Yarmouth. And I think they're building right across the country, and they're putting a lot of money into, branches right across the country at the moment. And I think again, it's in their interest that we don't have an election too soon. I just want to see Starmer to stay in place for a bit because I think the rest are worse. Yeah. And I hate Starmer.
Yeah, Starmer is the gift that keeps on giving because he's just so not in touch with the population. So he would lose the next general election. Anybody could win the next general election.
I did a talk up in Doncaster recently. A local advanced branch group out there, and there's only about 35 or 40 people there. And I went up to Doncaster, and Ben did something down the line on Zoom to talk to them and that sort of thing. And we were all asking questions. And I asked him a question to Ben direct in front of them. I said, "What do you think of Starmer in terms of? Do you think we should stay as Prime Minister?" And Ben said, "Yes, please." And so we all agree. The thing is, we need 2 years Advance UK. We do need that. We build those policies up there and then wallop. And hopefully at that point, Restore and Advance together, provided we get rid of the racists in that party.
I agree 100%.
I'm going to be honest, and as I said, look, there's no point in sitting here being all, whatever, pally or whatever. I've got to be honest, unless Advance can join with Restore, it's tough for me to see a future from long term. And that really hurts me to say that because you know how much I love Ben, but it's going to be one hell of an uphill struggle.
Yeah, but I think I still believe Advance UK could get anywhere between 5 to 15 MPs. And it's a building. That's the way it works. So you look at the way Lib Dems went down, the SNP went down. They all come up, and those sorts of things. And maybe with say 10 MPs, we could help. Actually, I think it could be close to a hung parliament, and therefore we might have a voice. You're dead right, Paul. I share that, and so do a lot of the people in Advance UK. But I'm not worried about it. I can't join Restore as much as I love Rupert. I cannot join Restore, just like Richard, because there are people that I've seen the way they talk and what they're saying. I'm married to a woman that was born in Kenya. She's British through and through. Her parents come from Yorkshire. They were born in Yorkshire, but they went out there as engineers working on the national grid over there and that sort of thing in the early 50s. And Jenny, my wife, was born in 1954 over there. She was out there for 5, 6, 7 years? 8 years she lived there, that sort of thing. But under Restore's approach, what I'm hearing, she'd be thrown out.
No, exactly. And I
haven't seen it, but apparently, I don't know if you have, any of you two guys, but just before we came on, and actually also in the chat, someone said, "Did you watch Cole Benjamin's interview with Baraka?" And apparently he wouldn't answer the question about would Baraka be allowed to join Restore. I haven't seen it, so I don't know if that's true, if it's accurate. But again,
you've got to understand what we've got to understand. And again, I really, but we've got to have these hard discussions. I'm 100% with Howard on this. I will not. I have been against racism my whole life, right? And that's why I also stand against Islamism, because Islamism is a supremacist ideology in the same way as Nazism or communism is not supremacist, it's just mad. But Nazism and Islamism are very, very close and very similar. That's why I'm opposed to both. But when it comes to racism, I cannot, and I tell you what, the British people will not vote for a party that is exposed as having racists lurking within its corridors. So unless Restore address those things, and I haven't seen them addressed fully. Rupert's made some great noises, and Rupert seems to be against that. But when you look at the people that are in the background waiting for Rupert not to be there anymore, if he retires or whatever, that's exactly the worry I have, Howard. And that's why I think Advance has to stay. So I'm sorry, Paul, I think you're totally wrong about Advance joining, folding and going into partnership.
No, I didn't say they'd fold, Richard. I said it's hard to see a bright future for them. If unless they can join with Restore, I personally think it's going to be very hard.
Yeah,
But I
mean,
disagree.
I go back to what I was just saying earlier. I think they could have a role to play in a government situation. We've got to pick the right seats, and people are still asking me to set up a Fairfield UK party. Because there's 37 million drivers in this country. Imagine me if I started carrying out policies saying petrol will be free, diesel will be free. No, I'm taking the piss out myself. But the point is, no, people have generally said that. And that's what I'm saying. Going back, I remember the Lib Lab pack. You mentioned that earlier, Richard. And you look at the pack with what's his name, Cameron and Clegg. Earlier, in 2010, and that's when I set up Fairfield UK. The thing is, I think there's ways through this, and there's too much political genius in Ben Habib for him not being able to contribute to our country. And
I agree.
And on the college, there's a lot of good people, as you know, that I've worked with closely. And all I say is, and I think someone said on one of your messages just now, I think if Ben did join Restore, some of the wrong uns would get out of Restore. That's an interesting thought, because there's no doubt about it. He's half Pakistani. Would those wrong uns really like him to be in their party?
I'm gonna be honest here. This is one of the problems with a lot of Restore supporters. JME says, "So I see this as I see this is a bashing Restore Britain channel." I mean, and this is one of the problems with Restore supporters, my friend. Too many Restore supporters get way too uptight about having a conversation. This is a sensible, grown-up conversation. If you don't like it, you can either don't watch or you can disagree. We're not bashing Restore. I've said, look, you know how much I think of Ben. I've just told the honest truth what I think about Advance. I'm not bashing Advance. I'm not bashing Ben. I'm just being honest. And JME, the bottom line is that if Restore are a party that think nobody's allowed to ask any questions about them, they're done. Forget it.
Can I say something there as well? Because people were talking about Carl Benjamin, right? I spoke to Carl. Carl came up to me and spoke to me at the backstage of the event. I can't remember if we had a hug or not, but it was fine. We were just, how you doing, Carl? How you doing, Richard? And it was absolutely fine. Now, we had an absolutely blazing online row over what Carl had said. Not an online row. I really. So I don't hold anything against people that have opinions different to mine. I don't agree with a lot of what Carl said. Yeah. And I'll say that to his face, but as a human being, I like him. I like him, right? Now, and the best way to deal with things, it's like the thing we had with Lubna last night. The best way to deal with things is talk to people one-on-one. See all this poison on the internet. You know what we got, Paul, because we made some very valid points about Restore, right? And the hate that we got and the poison that we got thrown at us, and that is not the way politics should be done. We should be able to discuss things heatedly if we have to. We're all men. Men can shout at each other and all the rest of it. But this vile pile-on that you get because you express an opinion that's different to theirs, that's not democracy. That's mob rule. Yeah.
No, I mean, funny enough, a very good friend of mine for many years, messaged me earlier. He's on a few political Facebook groups, both for Restore and Reform. He kind of likes both. He prefers Rupert. He's definitely in Rupert's camp, but he's thinking that Reform offer the better chance. And he's been absolutely hammered today by people that are following Restore. There is too much aggression from some of the Restore followers.
And that, do you know what? Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say that if there was a general election tomorrow, I'd vote Reform. Yeah, I would do, because I just can't bear the thought of a socialist government on this place. Yeah. And let's see what Reform. I mean, Reform are going to be exposed because look how many councils they control now, and all those sorts of things, and their administration. So I think that massive good result last week or 2 weeks ago is not necessarily a good thing for them at the moment. This early on the way through, and from my point of view, for the Restore people here, I love Rupert Lowe. Rupert Lowe is a mate, a friend. He was the only person that turned up on the day of the London mayoral election who took, when I got the vote, and stood by me. No Reform headquarter people were there except Rupert. And he came up to me and we both said, it's great news that, bear in mind at that point, Nigel wasn't leader of the party. Richard Tice was, and Ben was deputy. And at that point, we both said, it's great, Nigel's coming back. Not quite like the Messiah's coming, he's amongst us, but it was close to that feeling. Both Rupert and I had massive respect for Nigel. But look what Nigel's done to us. I mean, and all I said, why I was threatened with expulsion, was simply responding to a Dan Wootton question on his show, what do I know about Tommy Robinson? And thanks to you, Paul, I found out more about him because you got me into visiting him when he was in prison. And I was inspired by that man. I didn't know anything about him. But for that reason, Nigel and Richard Tice and a lot of other people, and if you notice, David Ball's been knocked out. He's now, got Lee Anderson's now the chairman. What happened there anyway? But it's just a party full of people they throw under the bus. Here's
the thing, Rupert. Here's the thing. You found out because you was brave enough to go and find out for yourself.
Yeah. It was like that. I said, who is this man? Because my answer to the original question was, I don't know him from Adam, but I do know what he's done in terms of highlighting the child rape gang issue. And anyone giving credit to that when there's 500,000 kids in this country being raped, systematically by Pakistani rape gangs. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. I'm sorry, I'm going to put my hand and shake his hand. And I get a bit peed off with Tommy now because he's impossible to get hold of, to talk to and all those sorts of things. But that's life. I mean, he's a superstar. I'm not. And and
yes, you are, Howard. You're a superstar as well, mate.
No, Richard, I'm not, mate.
You are,
and I don't want to be. But the thing is, the issue is Nigel Farage has changed completely to me because he was, for me, the answer to this country's future. And I'm afraid he is completely not the answer to this country's future now because he's so selfish. And we've seen the 5 million. Someone give me a £5 million pound or dollar, whatever it is, gift. Oh, for Christ's sake. And then there's the 1 million gift which went to Boris Johnson and him, regarding Brexit, to stand down 319 reform, potential MPs, to get a free run for Boris. Those are the sorts of things I think stinks. You won't get that with Ben. You won't get that, and I don't think you get it with Rupert. But I'm concerned about the ethno nationalist thing. That's the thing that's giving me the problem.
Me too, Howard.
I thought that's died out a lot over the last few weeks, but we'll see. Let me just get through one or two of these. Yorkshire Tea, just tuned in on my bed with my mate's little dog, snuggled up. Just wanted to say a big thank you to Richard. Please do not retire. I don't think there's much chance of that. Richard to go out on his shield. Julie, good news. Congrats, Sharon, on your new grandchild. Well, beautiful. Absolutely massive congratulations. Jack, Nick Griffin will be better than Keir Starmer.
For God's sake.
M. Tunnicliffe, Paul, just want to say, I agree with you more than anyone. You see things as they are, not how we might want them to be. Support, promote, support. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Come on, Paul. You've got a picture taken with that guy. How much did you pay that guy to make that comment? You see it, how the picture with the arm around it all,
You never know. Lots of football news today, guys. Arsenal are Premiership champions. They've
Bournemouth won. Bournemouth beat Man City.
No, I think it was 1-1. That's the last I saw. But that gives Arsenal the title.
Oh, that's good news because Arsenal play my team on Sunday, Crystal Palace. So.
And then we got, I don't know how the other games going between Chelsea and Spurs. If someone can let us know, because that's a massive game also involving
relegation,
involving the relegation. Before we go, and I've got one or two other things that I want to quickly chat about, but tell us about what you're up to with the Fairfield UK and the latest thing that's going on in your life, because I know you're always so busy.
Yeah, well, you may have noticed we got a Chancellor's Checker called Rachel Reeves, who is clueless beyond belief. She did work in a bank and she did run things. She's incredibly intelligent. I'm talking through my Pinocchio nose. Yeah, she is actually promising in August, in the autumn budget, to restore the 5p cut that Rishi Sunak put in back in 2022 in fuel duty. I've been campaigning since 2010, and I've managed to get a 10% reduction in fuel duty in that time. She wants to turn that around. Now, let me just say that we're in a massive cost of living crisis, and fuel is at a level now. You're seeing diesel at £2 near us, damn it, on average. And you're seeing the Middle East crisis impacting on that big time. 40 other countries, guys, have cut their fuel duty, now excluding Germany, Italy, Spain. We're not doing anything. And she's going to come out this week. And I've been told by a Treasury internal good source I have in there that they're going to actually say they're going to cancel the autumn 5p increase, which, great. But that's not going to solve our problems. We need to cut fuel now. And, and she's just enjoyed £300 million extra of VAT because of the Middle East crisis. And we have had to pay drivers an extra $3 billion to fill up our cars in the UK. And she's just sitting there enjoying all aspects of us suffering. So what I've done is I put a petition together, and we got 150,000 have signed it in 6 weeks. Wow. Which is, I'm delighted about. And I'm going to be presenting it to the Treasury on Thursday. Between us lot on here and your viewers, originally Kemi Badenoch and Mel Stride were going to actually asked could they come along to it. But because of what's happening at the moment, they didn't do so well in the local elections. They decided to drop out of this and focus on their problems with their own party. But I've got about 12 MPs going along. They're all Tories. I've asked Robert Jenrick to come along, and I've asked what's his name, the Lib Dem?
Ed Davey, the pirate, pirate of Penzance.
Yeah. and I've asked every party leader to say, can you come along to it? And something like 3,500 of my supporters have written to their MP in the last 24 hours. Could you go support this? So we're delivering this thing, and it calls on three things, Paul, Richard, which is one, make sure you promise to to not introduce the fuel duty rise back in August. Secondly, remove the VAT from the fuel duty itself. That double taxation sickens me. It's so dishonest. That would save 10p per litre. And the third thing is actually, why not promise in the lifetime of this Parliament to keep fuel duty frozen? Yeah. Can you imagine what that would do to the economy, inflation, you name it? There are businesses going bust. There are old age pensioners and people who've got cancer treatment can't afford to get to hospitals, all because we are the most expensive, the most highest taxed nation in terms of drivers. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm delivering that. And I just appreciate if anyone wants to come along on Thursday morning at 10:30 to the Treasury. There'll be lots of photographs and lots of media there taking pictures of us delivering 150,000 signature petition. So please come and join us. And if you haven't done Ask Your MP yet, please go to my website, fairfueluk.com, and you click on the top button, and you'll see that would take you to a thing which asks your MP something like, ask the question, will you support and go to the Treasury with Howard Cox and other MPs to ask Rachel Reeves to cut fuel duty? And that's what we're asking.
Howard, sorry,
go on, Rich. No, go for it.
I want to ask Howard a question here, and obviously, again, if it's outside of what you deal with, just that's fine. But we've got a massive, big petrol station just off the coast of Aberdeen there, and I believe that nutcase Miliband has managed to push through a complete ban on any drilling for the next 10 years or something like that. Is that right? Was that the Queen's speech about the North Sea?
Yeah, I mean, existing oil fields are still going to be worked, but no new fields are going to be opened up. And they're capping all fracking fields in the whole of the country as well. They put concrete over them now. And the irony of all this is that we get our fuel from Norway, and they're actually tapping the same potential wells that we could be getting.
They're taking our oil, and we're allowing them to.
We're sitting on about $1.3 trillion of wonderful oil and gas, and
it's disgusting.
And we could halve our energy bill. We could all that sort of thing. We could be self-sufficient, and we could sell the bloody stuff abroad as well. We'd be totally and utterly, and our economy would boom. Norway is booming because they're flogging the oil to us.
And Howard, do you know what we were going to do? Me and Howard were going to do a stream a few weeks ago, and I think we need to do, because Howard, I want to really forgive the pun, drill down into this. because sorry, Paul, but that's what we call.
He's no Bob Monkhouse, is
I'm
he?
going to call it drilling Howard, right? so
Drill, baby,
Worse.
drill.
so drilling with Howard. So basically,
I can't stop laughing now.
Anyway, I want to talk about oil. I want to talk about oil and everything that goes, oil and gas and all the rest of it, because I think that is an absolute, it's just such a massive own goal for the Labour Party. They're insane. Ed Miliband is an absolute madman. He's insane. You just got to look at the guy. He's crazy. And he is basically there's ways you could do it. There's ways you could get that, because they say, oh, well, it's not going to make any difference because it's got to be sold on the global market. No, you could take all the stuff that you need for yourself at a certain rate, and then give the oil companies a very, very preferential tax rate, and they can sell the surplus wherever they want. So that self-sufficiency could mean that we're getting gas and oil at half the market rate if we did it properly, right? But anyway, sorry to sort of go off on that one, but something that's just been in my head.
The interesting thing people don't realise, that something like 6,000 products are based on oil, perfumes, medicines, all those sorts of things. And if that would reduce the cost to our own manufacturing. We get manufacturing back, we get our car manufacturing back, and we get people have more and more jobs, and we'd have inflation low, we'd have high wages, high skilled jobs, all simply by the fact of we'd be self-sufficient on energy. That's all we need to do.
It's got to happen. And that's something Advance, I'm sure, would be 100% behind. And this is where's reform on that? Where's restore on that? I don't know, but I know where Advance are on it. And that's an election winner. And it's nothing, it's nothing to do with immigration, any of that. It is purely and simply economics and being self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Guys, before we wrap it up, I just want to go back to the original subject. And by the way, Howard, well done as always. You've been a Trojan for the motorists now for many, many years. And that's being reflected in the chat here that I can see. Lots of people thanking you. Before we go, just going back to our previous, look, this is where I stand. For the moment, we're 4 weeks away from that by-election. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to keep my powder keg dry. I'm going to sit back, see how this plays out before I sort of say, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. This is where I'm at with it. For you guys, you're coming out early, yeah?
Yeah, I think there needs to be. Well, my it's not going to happen. What I want, I think there needs to be a unity candidate. but the point is, if there was, we'd win it. Whoever that unity candidate was, and that shows the disgusting state of politics.
I mean, I'll tell you how far we are away, Howard and Richard. I'll tell you how far away we are from that happening right now. The discussions that I'm going through, right, just to get everyone to agree on the need for everyone to register to vote. Yeah. If those discussions are anything to go by, the chances of a unite the right candidate standing is less than zero.
Well, that's why Advance needs to remain as a political party. I don't care what people are saying in the comments. Advance must not fold. It can have pacts, it can have whatever, but it mustn't fold. It mustn't.
You see, it's interesting because you're absolutely right, Paul. I mean, as far as I'm a believer in compulsory voting. Even if, I really do. The Australian system, even if you spoil your paper, your ballot paper, even if none of the above is a box, that sort of thing. But there are, we know that there's something like 45% of this country are politically homeless. And that's the ones we need to take on board. And that's my message to Advance UK and my colleagues on the college, is we should appeal to them. If we can convince them, hey, there is someone that actually will do something with common sense and support the majority. I think that's the way to go. But we need time. And at the moment, we don't have time.
I tell you, can I say something else on that, Paul? Just on the Advance thing. We don't just need time, we need Tommy. If Tommy fully, and I know Tommy doesn't want to do it because he's, and I get it, I get his reasoning. He's working on UTK and he wants to be independent and be able to, try and bring people together that way, and that's really good. But if Advance UK got the full support of Tommy, it would make a massive, massive difference. Because there's something about Tommy that like, not me and Paul were talking about this the other day. There's something about Tommy that none of us have. He has, and I was listening to Kev Carroll's interview about him. He has a charisma that is magnetic and attracts people. I just piss people off all the time, right? But Tommy's got something that really works. And if he could be just controlled a little bit and basically, you know, get behind advance, I think that would transform things. And there's 2 or 3 years to do that.
I think Tommy wants what we all want. He wants unification.
Of course, yeah.
He wants unification. You know, and I was delighted to see him talking about the need to register to vote. I mean, Hazel says, how can anyone be against people registering to vote? I mean, I'm not saying I'm coming up against people saying, no, I wouldn't support that, but getting them to actually say it as a united voice is frankly bloody ridiculous. You know, I mean, how can anyone not support a campaign to get everyone that's on the right side of politics to register to vote, to prepare for the big political battle that is coming our way? I mean, I don't know how these parties think they're going to win without voters.
Well, I get fed up with people complaining when they haven't voted.
Yeah.
You know, I talk to people who are quite intelligent people, friends of mine. Oh, I'm not bothering voting. And yet they're the first ones to moan about this, that, and the other. And so, as far as I'm concerned, the whole policy works beautifully in Australia. There are special restrictions, you know, or exclusions if you can't do certain things, mainly to do with health and stuff like that. But mainly, they have none of the above, or spoil your paper. You know, that sort of thing. At least you know going out there. I mean, we would get up to something like an 85% level of voting. At the moment, we don't even touch 60% yet. And as I say, those people are politically homeless are advances targets.
And Howard, I think in the 1970s and 80s that the turnout was about 70%.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And that's like you say, if we get 60, people think we're doing well.
Yeah.
And it's because so many people are told.
Political apathy. They had enough of it. I mean, I've got 37 million drivers in this country, but I've only got 1.8 million sign-ups. You know, if I had 37 million of them and all gave me £1, what a campaign I could run. Exactly
right. And that's what people. Yeah.
Tish asked, so what do they say when they won't get behind people getting to vote? To be honest, they don't say anything. That's the problem. You know, that is part of the problem. I mean, look, I've had a great response from a lot of people, some really good people. But there's also been people who I'm definitely not going to name them. I mean, it might get to the point where I name the party, but I'm not going to name the people. But, you know, when there's no response, I mean, look, maybe I'm not the right person. If I'm not, I accept that. But I don't see the harm in anyone saying, come on, guys, get ready for the next general election. Make sure you register to vote. It's a very simple message that is completely neutral. It's not a party political broadcast, is it? Asking people to get ready to vote.
You're spot on, Paul. You're spot on, Paul. You're being reasonable and rational, and if people care about their country, they've got to actually have some say in it, and that's through the ballot box.
Yeah, registering a vote. I mean, it's just such a no-brainer. Why anyone wouldn't register to vote? Why anyone wouldn't actually vote? Just, you know, this is literally what our forefathers bled and died for.
Yeah.
In the 2 world wars, to protect democracy and to have democracy.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, look, Howard, you know, I mean, I haven't spoken to you as much about as I have to Richard about this, but look, the bottom line was, you know, trying to get the right to unite. We all know it's like trying to herd wild cats, you know. But I thought, well, look, where do we even start? Where would you even start to have a conversation with 4 or 5 political parties with something that they can all agree on?
Well, that's the hook. What can they all agree on? That's the question.
What can they all agree on?
Yeah. So the big one, of course, is immigration and border control on the right, and getting our country back, and those sorts of things. I feel as though there should almost be, well, between you and me again, I'm actually preparing a petition asking would you like to have this coming together on the right, specifically Ben and Rupert coming together? And I'm working with some people in advance and believe it or not, in Restore, putting something together. And we think we could. I've got 150,000 coming, signing this petition for Thursday coming in. I think I can get 150,000 people to actually sign this. And we can then say, look, Ben, look, Rupert, these people want you together.
Yeah.
But it's based on these things, which, immigration, etc. Mine is obviously very much on the cost of living, because that's what I do in terms of most of the things I'm involved with. And I was involved on the energy, the net zero thing, setting up the energy policy Advance UK, and working with those guys, people like Gavin Maxwell, David Rhodes, Dr. Craig Walton, and even Paul Burgess, even though he left the party. Listening to those people, their brains, they're the size of a planet.
Absolutely.
I learned so much. But we haven't got that in other parties. All we got is opportunism. And
I agree.
One of the things that really upsets me, Paul, Richard, is just how 16 years I've been pointing out the cost of motoring, the fuel, the taxation. We're the highest taxed motorists in the world. Suddenly, when it comes to a political situation, we're coming into last year and the oil crisis. Look, all the opportunists coming out. Even Ed David's coming out saying we should cancel the fuel duty rise and that sort of thing, because it's hurting people, and it's a wonderful political football to kick around. And Rob Jenrick rang me and said, Howard, you've been very successful and active in helping the motorists in the last. And I worked with him when he was Exchequer Secretary in 2018. We put together Pump Watch together. He asked me to write a paper when he was Exchequer Secretary, and I did that. And he loved it. But he's got a lot of respect for me. But I said, I'm happy to support reform and your fight for calling a cut in fuel duty, but it's got to be apolitical. Because there are 37 million motorists. And this is your point, Paul. What can they reunite around? Yeah. And that's what we've got to get. And don't forget, there's another big thing, don't you? Egos. The egos.
That's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem for me, egos. And it's not just leadership egos either. It's people that are in much less senior positions that you might need to go through to get to the leader, etc., etc. You know what it's like, Howard. You know better than anyone. Politics is like a bloody game of snakes and ladders, isn't it? Or a maze. You go down one route and you think it's going to be open, then it's a dead end. You turn back and you find another dead end. Eventually, if you're lucky, you get out of the maze, right? So it is what it is.
Oh, you're dead right. We are dealing. I mean, I go to Portcullis House, which is the MP's offices mainly, and Westminster, on probably twice a week, sitting there talking to people about this. And I sit in meetings, and the egos amongst these people, they won an election, they represent their constituents, but they don't represent their constituents. They represent themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Nigel Farage. How many times has he been to Clacton to have a surgery to talk about the bin collection for Mrs. Bloggs down the road? That's what constituency MPs should do. And I've got a great MP in Katie Lamb. You know that you've probably seen her, and the Tory MP, and she's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. She's really in touch. She's young, energetic, and cares about real people. Unfortunately, I don't believe a lot of people reform hierarchy. And bear in mind, the leadership consists of two people. That's Youssef and Farage. They run that show. Whereas with Advance UK, we have a say in it in the college. We generally do. There's 15 to 25 of us. I can't remember now in the college, and I think there's more. I mean, people like who am I talking about? Anyway, but we actually, when we say to Ben, you can't do this. I mean, I've called for us to get together, and Ben's agreed. We're getting together next week. For our direction. You imagine saying to Nigel Farage and say, "Oh, can we have a meeting now to discuss our way?" He said, "No, you don't need to worry about that."
Howard, and that's why I think advance is still massively important. We had a setback in that last by-election. The timing. You're absolutely right. The timing was absolutely wrong. We shouldn't have done it. But we.
Sorry, I'm just seeing this text.
Give them all a load of mushrooms and get them to sign the agreement. Yeah.
Not a bad idea, that, Jenny.
I think let's do that.
I'd like to give a whole lot of some toadstools. You know what I mean? But
there was a message there a minute ago. Sorry, guys, if I've been a bit quiet. I mean, the chat is very heavy tonight. We've had nearly 2,000 people watching live, which is brilliant. another great audience. One of the comments was about Andrew, getting Andrew and Ben together. But from my knowledge, talking to both, I'm not sure that Ben and Andrew particularly get on well, do they, Rupert?
Andrew Bridgen. Yeah, there's a bit of history there, but I think it's solvable. Don't forget, Andrew, he's a friend. And, I've been to several court cases to do with Rupert and Andrew there. And Andrew, I think tomorrow's got one with Matt Hancock tomorrow. I think he's got another things going on with him. But I think there's a way forward there. I think we can do it. I've sat and spoken to Andrew because I tried to get him into Advance.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, and that sort of thing. And he said he wouldn't do it. And it is a personality issue with Ben.
Yeah.
He simply, and I know what that is, but I think it's solvable. And he's much more right wing, than Ben, and I see much further over to the right. And as you can see, and he's a brilliant. And to be fair to him, his COVID work and addressing all that has been superb. And and Rupert offered him, would you like to join? He said, yeah, I think I'll go with you. And I think it was that close. I think it was it could have gone either way, but there was just a bit of a personality issue, which I'm aware of what it is, but I'm not going to say it on here.
Yeah, no, and I'm to be honest with you, I'm actually not. And like you, I tried to get Andrew to jump on board with reform, and it wasn't a no, but it wasn't an overly, I didn't really get the vibe that it was going to happen. Charlie, thank you, Charlie. Paul, what do you think of Reform's candidate? Yeah, I mean, looks good. Don't know the guy, know nothing about him, but very presentable, and I like his background in being a local guy. Tommy, photo ID at voting halls stops people actually voting on the.
I think, Paul, if I could just say about Reform candidates. I mean, Noel, as you know, Noel's a good friend of all of us here, I think, and Noel's a working class lad. He's in the military part time. He's a scaffolder. He's a working man, a proper lad, and he's standing to be an MP. And Steve Beattie's another guy who's doing amazing things up in Oxfordshire for Reform. So I just think we've got to try and find a way of bringing all our friends together. In a way that means, and I still think the pledge has a lot to offer as well. Yeah. And
yes.
It just, I've been so busy doing stuff for Tommy's big jamboree in Parliament Square. That
Richard, well done, mate. You what you've done and that sort of thing. It's not all of you well bloody done, but I know how hard you work and that sort of thing, and I understand why it's difficult to communicate and getting things through to little old me. But
mate, exactly.
I'm very proud of what you did.
Well, Howard, and I always say it is literally like I am one small cog in a very big machine that does that. There's about 10 of us all working at the same rate and pace, and it's like the stuff that's put against us by the authorities, and working with the police, it's not easy. It's like, it's always challenging. So there's a lot of stuff goes on, but thank you for that, Howard. And again, thank you for what you do as well. I know it's getting a bit of a mutual appreciation society, but for what you save people literally billions of pounds, Howard. And that's, I think people that are watching this have got to understand the work that everybody on this channel does, because Paul gets a lot of stick, totally unjustified. I know, I don't know if you get stick, but we've all, been at the sharp end of all this sort of stuff. And Paul's the same, doing what he's doing with trying to bring people together. If he could do that, if he could do what he's trying to do, and I think he can, I think if any man can do it, it's Paul. It could save the country.
There's huge respect for Paul, and I can, not just from us, but I talk to people. They say, "Oh, Paul Thorpe said this, Paul Thorpe said that," and there's no doubt about it. There's a lot of love out there for you, mate. And
thank you. Thank you.
No, genuinely, and we've all got our enemies or whatever. All these opportunities have a go. I mean, I've had death threats, all sorts of things. The Greens go for me, the cyclists go for me. All of these people, and
cyclists.
Yeah, well, they do.
The Lycra Mafia.
Yeah.
The Green Party are going to come after you with a sharpened mushroom. You know what I mean? It's like
I'll tell you what we do know, guys. We're going to wrap it up in a sec, but I'll tell you what we do know. The discussion about the 18th of June, and what's going to take in Makerfield. There's a lot to play out. And looking at I've been going through the messages. There are literally a couple of thousand or more messages here. And all I can say is on the day when the moment comes, I hope the vote is not split like the message board tonight, because boy, oh boy.
Yeah. Can I just say, Paul? I was backstage at the UTK thing, right? And I don't know if you've ever seen Matt Legg's channel. He's a ex-boxer, real tough guy, and he does a lot of the sort of, life stories of British hard men, yeah?
Yeah.
So I'm backstage and I saw Matt Legg and I was like, oh man, it's Matt Legg, you know what I mean? And I went over to him and says, mate, I watch your channel all the time. He says, do you know what, Richard? I watch you all the time on Paul Thorpe, right? So it was like this mutual appreciation. We had a little bit of a bromance backstage. It was this mutual appreciation society.
Nice
right?
one. Nice
so, Matt,
one.
if you're watching, it's great seeing you, and I am going to be in touch, mate.
Before we go, because I'm a big football man, right? I think the final score at Stamford Bridge tonight was Chelsea 2, Tottenham 1. Can anyone just confirm that? Because I'm going to give you a prediction before we go. I think, let me just make sure that result stood. Can someone let me know in the chat? Was that the final score? Is the game over yet? Confirmed. Yeah, thank you, Sky. I tell you what, Spurs are back in the mix, and I think they've got the tougher game. I think they've got the tougher final game. I still think that West Ham can do this. Right. That's it for tonight. Howard don't care because he's a Palace fan.
Well, we're in the final of the European Conference, which is
I know, mate. I know
the Mickey Mouse thing. We don't care. We play but we've got Arsenal on the last game on Sunday, so that it doesn't matter now. So
no, it doesn't matter. They'll be on the beach. It's like it is what it is. But it's the thing, Richard. Howard, you're not one of them Palace ultras at the back of the what's the drum.
I see. Hang on, Fulham are 13th, and we're only 4 points behind you.
Yeah, we've got Newcastle on the last day.
Yeah.
Right, guys. Howard, thank you so much. Big superstar, Howard and Richard, both of you. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. Should we play out with something? I'll tell you what, let's play out with Me Fave. I love this. Ready, guys? You're going to have to ignore the beginning now because it's gone, but I'm going to play out with this. Love it. Right, see you soon, everyone. God bless. Have a lovely evening.
See you, folks.
See you soon.
Stockland's hills, from valleys wide to Ulster's will, the drums are sounding, the call is near, for every patriot to gather here. 4 nations, one kingdom, together we rise, beneath one flag under British skies. We will not bend or compromise. Before your eyes, our voices thunder, our banners fly. 4 nations, one kingdom till we die. 4 nations,
They tried to break what we became, to turn our love to doubt and shame. We've led as